Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle from Poseidon's Pets. Welcome to the live stream. So, new shrimp room live stream episode 2. How's everybody doing? Looks like we got a few people in here already. So, welcome to the stream. Got Jamie Anderson, Jamie Anderson, my lovely wife Amber, the Hat Man. How are you? Got Nicole Jones. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody is having a fabulous Wednesday and is ready for a great stream. So what I have for you is I'm feeding a food stick from Shrimp Envy. So Rob Bloomfield over at Shrimp Envy sent me some food to try out, and these guys absolutely love these food sticks. So what I like is that it's a small shrimp lolly. It's not this massive, bamboo skewer that's super big. So it's definitely nice to have a small one in there. Is that Chris Winter? How are you, sir? Welcome to the stream. Come hang out with us. Zen, how are you? Got the gangs all here. So some new things in the shrimp room. I got some hides from Aqua Vitro, which are pretty cool. I lost my power cord. Is that what we're gonna do today? We have technical difficulties. So I am definitely excited to be streaming again. I went on a 4-month hiatus or so, just because we were getting settled with the new house. We were getting all situated, getting the new shrimp room built. And now that the shrimp room is built completely, I can start streaming again. What is happening? Watch, that's going to fall on me now. Jamie says it was playing last week's stream. It just wanted to make sure that everybody had seen last week's stream. We're just going to make sure that everybody's seen it. Because if you haven't, it was a good one. We had a lot of fun. Mark Shelley, how are you? Sketty Nona, greetings. Well, I hope everybody is having a great day and is ready to look at some shrimp. So right now I have the camera on the coal tank, which has that shrimp lolly in there. And then I've got my macro lens on it, and I was hoping that would give it kind of a clearer picture, but it looks like it's super focused on the shrimp right up front, but the ones down below, not so much. So I may take that off here in a second. But how's everybody's day been? Anybody do anything exciting? Shrimp related, fish related? Jamie says he is working and lurking, currently eating a calzone. It's one of my favorites. I remember when Pizza Hut came out with the calzones like 20 years ago. Not saying they invented calzones, but was something you could order. And that was the best thing ever. I'd get those all the time. All right, let's see if I can make this camera any clearer. Let's go mess with it real quick. 2 seconds. I don't know if that's any better, but it doesn't look like they're in a bubble anymore. Yeah, but I'm loving how this tank's turning out. So in this tank, I have red Calcios, I have a blue Dragon Blood, crystal reds, fancy black tigers, blue bolts, tangerine tigers, some Thai bees. So there's a little bit of everything in this tank, and I'm really curious to see how the next few generations go. So I'm going to keep this tank going for another 6 months or so. It was set up in November of last year, and it's got a deep layer of substrate, so that Brightwell should give me at least a year and a half, if not longer, especially for a coal tank. But the more fancy shrimp I put in there, the more we're going to want to have that buffering capacity to lower that pH down. But as of right now, just being a coal tank and being a kind of a halfway house for misfit and unwanted shrimp that don't have their own homes, because you would think that with 16 shrimp tanks that I would have enough tanks for all the varieties of shrimp that I have, but definitely don't. I was sitting here the other day and I was talking to Grant over at the Garden of Eater, and I was telling him, I'm like, I need more tanks. Like, I already need to set up more tanks. There's too many things that I need to get going, too many projects that I'm working on. Tater salad. Hello, sir. How are you? Welcome to the stream. Thank you. It's been so long, Dennis. Yeah, so I recently added the black fancy tigers that I had to this tank, and the reason for that is I got some new shrimp. So if you were here for my last stream last week, I reached out to Grant and I told him, I was like, hey, send me some shrimp. Like, here's money, send me shrimp. This is kind of what I'm looking for, but surprise me. So he sent me a bunch of stuff, and hopefully Friday I'll be getting the video out. I'm either going to be doing that video or I'm going to be doing the video on the hides that Aqua Vitro sent me. Haven't decided, haven't edited either one, but I've got the footage going. So pretty soon I'll be throwing up a video, whether it's that one or the video of the new shrimp I got. Michelle, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. Chris says he's going to be eating shrimp during Super Bowl, or not Super Bowl, during football, Sunday football. Big Dog 35, welcome to the stream. So I like to open up the stream to questions. So kind of as like a Q&A format to anybody that may have a question for me. So if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, and that way you can get me running on a tangent. Let's see what kind of tangent we can get going today in terms of shrimp, because there's tangents on other stuff that I can run on, but let's not deviate from the shrimp talk. Yeah, Chris, we need to get together for sure. I feel like we haven't seen you guys in a long time. Absolutely. Come check out the shrimp room and everything. Jamie asks, what kind of pH meter are you currently using? The good old, that kind of test right there. So I've been looking at getting a pH meter so that way I can better test the water. I've been messaging Jamie back and forth in regards to like different options and the different ones he uses, and HM Digital has always been a good brand as far as like TDS pens goes, and the one he uses is actually an HM Digital, and he said it works really well. I had a TDS pen from, I want to say it was HM Digital, but it wasn't very good. and it always fell out of calibration, and I had to calibrate it all the time. And when I would go to calibrate it, it wouldn't calibrate properly. And I know you may be thinking like, oh, user error, but no, I followed the instructions multiple times, and the pen just wasn't doing what it said it would. So you'd follow the instructions and it would be like, hey, do this, this, and this. The pen's going to do this. And you would follow those steps and it wasn't doing what it said it would. And then it would fall out of calibration. The readings were never right. So I took it to be just like a cheap knockoff version of what it was supposed to be. I think I paid like $10, something like that. So you can't imagine that something as technical as measuring pH could work when you purchase a product at that low of a price point. So the ones that I've been looking at are closer to like $40. So it's not much more, but you definitely get what you pay for when it comes to different equipment and stuff. So the more, I don't want to say the more expensive something is, the better it is, but just keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff. You know, if somebody's making one that's $5 and you're like, everybody else has them at like 50 to 100, then more than likely that thing's not going to work. But the reason I want to get a pH meter essentially is because I want to make sure that the substrate I have is still buffering. I want to make sure that it is lowering that pH to that, 6, 5.5 that it's supposed to. I know a lot of folks out there say Brightwell works really well and it lowers your pH, but it doesn't lower the pH as much as like say ADA Amazonia, where ADA Amazonia is going to knock that pH all the way down to like 5.5. Brightwell's probably going to get you anywhere from like 6.5, 6.2, which is good for most shrimp. But if you want to breed and have your shrimp be prolific and have the best life possible, you want to get it in that lower pH, because that's just going to, make sure that they're surviving in that best suitable environment for them. Because you can have a tank and just put shrimp in it and do okay. They'll be fine. But if you want to see these mass amounts of numbers, if you want to be a successful breeder and, make some money on the side, then you want to make sure that everything is perfect. You want to make sure that every single baby you have hatched grows up to be an adult, because that's money. And that's somebody else who can, take that shrimp and grow it out in their house and enjoy it as much as you, because that's why we do this. That's why we're in the hobby, is, to share our shrimp with other folks and to share our shrimp with ourselves, our family, so that way we can enjoy them. And if your shrimp aren't thriving and growing, then it's nobody's benefiting from it. Thank you, Jamie, for the tangent. All right. Kyle, Chris, how are you, man? See you later on the Fortnite. Tater says, I got one. HM all the way. Definitely. Yeah, it was hard to calibrate. Didn't do anything. Yeah, I must have gotten like an MH one. So it wasn't HM, it was like MH. Nicole Jones. Kyle, can you talk about where I could find grading for shrimp, specifically red tiger shrimp? Mine are breeding at a prolific rate, and I can't find anything anywhere to grade the new babies. Help? That is an excellent question. When you're looking at grading certain shrimp, the main thing to look at is just patterns. So depending on what kind of shrimp, like in your instance, the red tiger shrimp, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I've seen mostly orange eye red tigers out there. And when you're trying to breed specific for a pattern or breed specific for colors and stuff like that, you mostly want to make sure that, the colors are right. You don't have some weird stripes going on. You don't have like spotting on the legs. And most tigers are pretty straightforward. Like the red tigers, if I'm not mistaken, they have an orange body, kind of like a tangerine tiger, and then they have red stripes. So very, very similar to like tiger. Because with tigers, there's not really much you have to look for grading. If you're looking at like fancy red tigers, then those are going to be definitely a different like pattern quality altogether. And red tiger, like what I'm thinking of is like the orange eye red tigers, which you're probably thinking more of like the fancy red tigers. It's where your orange eyes are going to have like that clear orange body and then the red stripes. But if you're looking at like your fancy red tigers, then you're going to want to have those red stripes with the white bodies, which it all depends on what kind of pattern you're going for, which I can understand what you're talking about as far as trying to find information on grading, because there's so much information out there, but I feel like it's never enough. I'm always looking for different information as far as like how to figure out basically what the different types of shrimps are in general, because there's so many different kinds, so many different types that people call them different ones. So somebody may call a blue dream a blue sky. So it's hard to really figure out what the differences are. But for the fancy red tigers, I would see if you can find a breeder who's been working on that line for a while and see if they're open to just suggestions on different grading and see if they can give you some advice there. I know Michelle Morgan, if she's still in here, I think she had some fancy red tigers and she was working that line for a while. I'm just getting into more of those unique, more of those rare shrimp. So I just got my first set of fancy red tigers 2 days ago. So definitely excited for that. So I wish I can point you in the right direction and give you some advice there. But I feel your frustration. Sometimes it can be hard to find different resources for the grading of shrimp, especially when you get into like, if you get into like your red pintos and black pintos, then you have like the boas and you have the fish bones and you have the galaxy fish bones, and there's so many different kinds. And like I got a poster in front of me, like the dancing man and the back lines, and there's just so many different types of shrimps. Big Dog says, I have baby shrimp in tank, but they don't stay alive. What kind of shrimp are you keeping, Big Dog? Are you keeping Neocaridina? Are you keeping Caridina? You know, what kind of water parameters do you have going on for those? Are you using reverse osmosis? Are you using tap water? There's a lot of factors that go into baby survival. Babies tend to adapt to different water parameters a lot easier than others. But if you have, say you have a Caridina tank, but it's not set up for Caridina tank parameters, you may get your adults to survive and breed in that water because it's close. But now when the offspring come around, they may not be able to survive in that water. They may not be able to molt and grow and just be the best that they can. So there's a lot of things that go into baby survival. I want to say the big one is water parameters and food. Babies don't move, so feeding a powder food definitely helps. But yeah, if you want to answer some of those questions, I can help you dive down a little bit further. Hey, Verily, how are you? Verily says, I have pure bee pollen. Think I can feed some to my neon yellow neos. As long as it's organic, I'd say go for it. I feed bee pollen to my shrimp. It's a good component for digestion. It's got a lot of sugars in it and protein. So bee pollen's good. It just depends on where your source is from. If it's organic and, you know, safe for human consumption, then I'd say go for it. Pick a tank that you know is foolproof and throw it in there. Don't pick a tank that's struggling. Pick a tank that's got some bulletproof shrimp in it and see how they do. If you start seeing deaths, then you got your answer. But for the most part, bee pollen's pretty safe. I wouldn't feed too much at a time because it does have a lot of sugar in it, and those sugars can affect water quality, but they can also help to feed your microflora and fauna, so it helps the tank. Ian's Fish Room. How are you, man? Long time no see. It's organic. It's from my beehive. Then yeah, I'd say it's good. Yeah, like I said, I would pick a tank that is doing really well, and the bee pollen I get, it comes in like little medallions, and I'm pretty sure that's how it's produced is just in those small flat discs, and then you can just drop a couple in there. They'll usually sink to the bottom. They dissolve quickly though, so that's why I said don't feed a lot of it. Barely says I don't treat my bees with any chemicals. My only concern would be the plants that they're getting the pollen from, because you may not necessarily treat your bees with chemicals, but bees can gather pollen from everywhere. So if you're next to a roadside, if you're next to a farm that sprays, if they're gathering pollen from flowers that are near the road, you have no idea what kind of chemicals are going to be on there. So it's really hard to say. That's why I said it's best to just test a small amount and kind of see how your shrimp do. If you trust your bee pollen because you made it yourself and you kind of know your surrounding area, then I would say, yeah, it's safe. Otherwise, I've always just purchased organic bee pollen and it's been fine. So as long as you know where the pollen's coming from, you know that, it's relatively safe, then you're good to go. That's good stuff. Yeah, we feed it to our chinchillas as well. So if you look, there's a buried calcio in there, and that is my big female from my calcio tank. She's a trooper. She has been through the death of my calcio tank. She has survived being thrown into the coal tank, and she went missing for about 3 days. So there was 3 days I didn't see her, and I had found a calcio body in the tank. And I was like, oh no, it finally happened. It finally happened to where I lost her. And then I think it was yesterday or the day before, I just saw her on the sponge filter, just trotting around, full of eggs like always. And I was like, okay, you made it. That's good. I was worried for her. I don't get attached to all of my shrimp, but there's a few in the shrimp room that, kind of stand out, and you get a little bit of attachment to them because you're gonna have deaths, you're gonna have stuff happen to your tanks, and so you learn to, accept it. But for like those select shrimp that you get excited for, and then when they finally go, you're like, oh no, I've watched you grow up from the start. It's hard to pinpoint certain shrimp. So when you can recognize one out of a tank, you start to get attached to them. Tater Salad, member for 12 months. Shout out to you, Kyle. You have come a long way, bud. Yeah, shout out to you, Tater. If it wasn't for you and Jamie always bugging me to get Caridina, I wouldn't be here. So Dennis, Tater Salad, and Jamie Anderson, they have been with me from the start of my YouTube journey. They've always been good supporters, always been good friends, jumping in, talking, chat, and all that good stuff. And I started out with Neo Caridinas. I had 3 tanks of Neos, and it slowly branched out into 7. And so my fish channel, that was mostly like fish and plants and Oscars, became a shrimp channel. And I got addicted to shrimp. But they've always been there from the start. And during my live streams, they would always say like, hey, you got to get Caridina shrimp. Like, hey, you got Neos, now you got to get Caridina. Now you got to get some crystals. Now you got to get some blue bolts. And so if it wasn't for them like pushing me that next step into Caridinas, it probably, I would have got there eventually, but they definitely helped me and inspired me by telling me, it's not that hard. If you can keep Neos, you can keep Caridina. And I used to say, probably about a year ago when I first got into Caridina, I used to say Caridina is a lot easier than Neos. This and this. You don't have to worry about it. And this setting up this shrimp room, Caridina is not easier than Neos. I've been struggling. Had what was it, 6 deaths in my orange eye blue tiger tank between yesterday and today. And it was seeing stuff like that to where, you're going to, like I said, you're going to have deaths. You'll have the onesie twosie every now and then. Shrimp get old, shrimp die, bad genetics, overbreeding, overpopulation, interbreeding. You're going to have shrimp die. Shrimp are going to die no matter what. That's going to happen. Your goal is to prevent large die-offs from happening. So I did a water change on the 12th, and then what was it, yesterday? So a day after, saw a couple deaths. I was like, okay, one I can handle. 2, that's starting to be a pattern. And then 2 became 3, and then 3 became 4, and then 4 became 5. And then I was like, okay, 5 deaths, maybe that's the end. Maybe they just, I did a water change too soon after moving them into the tank, because I've moved my shrimp too many times lately, because I'm trying to plan my tanks out to where I can have, every type of shrimp have its own tank. So my orange eye blue tigers have kind of been moved around a little bit, and I might have skewed the water parameters a little bit when I did it. So being moved a few times, plus, the water parameters not being perfect, it kind of created this perfect storm of possibly failed molts, possibly a contaminant in the water. So I'm not sure what happened exactly, if, something happened to where it got in the water or just too many water changes. Either way, I had a few deaths, and just to make sure that, it wasn't a contaminant, I set up this little device to pull contaminants out. So I set up a container with activated carbon in it, threw an air stone in there, created my own little like carbon filter to pull anything out of there. So I had 1 death this morning, and that was what inspired me to create this carbon filter. So we'll see how it goes if I have any more deaths after that. Sometimes when you have a contaminant, you can continue to have deaths for the next, week or so, even after everything's been pulled out. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to do a YouTube short on creating that little activated carbon filter, just for fun. I figured I was building it. It takes 2 seconds to throw the camera up, and then I can edit it whenever I want to post it. So keep an eye on my TikTok, my Facebook stories, my YouTube shorts, and you'll be able to see that. Big shout out to Tater Salad Dennis. Thank you so much for the 100 Danish kroners. You're amazing, man. Definitely helps us to continue to provide content and create my shrimporium, my shrimpire. So you're awesome, man. Definitely appreciate it. All right. Went on another tangent. Amber says, so these guys are to blame for filling my house full of tanks. Absolutely. Yes, you can blame Jamie and Dennis on Anderson. Dennis and Jamie. Today is rough. Today has been a rough day so far. Hey, Mexicali, how are you? Yeah, shout out to all my members too. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for all your contributions over the years and providing for me and my family and the shrimp themselves. And I didn't realize how many shrimp were in this tank. There's a mass amount of shrimp in here, and some good looking shrimp too. So I've been working on the Calcio tank, and I'm working on raising the TDS up a little bit just to give them a little bit more GH. I was talking with Rob over at Shrimp Envy, and he was telling me that he's kept Calcios and Dragon Blitz for a long time, and he's found that having them on a higher TDS with a higher GH has definitely helped. You can keep them in lower parameters, but they definitely thrive and do better when they have that higher TDS and that higher GH in the water. They just want a little bit more minerals. And I'm not sure if that has to do with their history as far as how they were bred, because I don't think anybody knows how they were bred besides I want to say his name is who I can't pronounce it. I have it written down, but I want to say it's like Bouye Zenjay or something like that. But he was the creator of Calcios and Dragon Bloods, and big shout out to him for bringing these amazing shrimp to the hobby. Some of you shrimp nerds are out there will know who I'm talking about. It's like Zenjay, Uwe Zenjay, I want to say. But definitely, we wouldn't have some of these gorgeous shrimp without breeders like that. The shrimp room brings me definitely a lot of happiness, but it also brings me a lot of stress and anxiety. Especially days like yesterday where one of my favorite colonies starts to collapse. But if you have followed my journey for the last 6 months, you know that I've been struggling. But we will get there. We will get there yet. All right. Anybody else have a question for me? Hey, Didi, how are you? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, definitely excited to see how the Calcios do. They've been doing really well in the coal tank. I want to set up another tank for them, like I said, and I'm hoping that everything goes well. Jamie said, "Just heard you lost a colony lately." Didn't lose a whole colony. No, the orange eye blue tigers took a big hit. I lost quite a few in there. I had maybe 30 shrimp, and I'm down to 15 maybe. So over the last few weeks, they've been struggling a little bit, and it's a lot of it has to do with setting up the new shrimp room and going from using the refill stations that I did and using pure RO now. And I think it's just there's been a lot of factors as far as moving shrimp around and changing the water, and so I'm going to get it dialed in. There's tanks that are thriving, there's tanks that are doing amazing, but of course I never focus on those. I always focus on the ones that are struggling, which is my greatest weakness and my greatest strength, because unless I'm succeeding 100% in every tank, I'm never going to be happy, which as a shrimp keeper, most of you know that's never going to be the case. You're never going to succeed in every tank. You're always going to have that one problem tank that you kind of shun to the side and be like, no, don't look at that tank. You don't want to mess with that one. I put my water somewhere because I've already kicked it over once. I found it. Yeah, I was setting up in the shrimp room. I got my ring light, got my cameras all set up, got the lights set up, the computer plugged in, grabbed my water. I walk away from setting the camera on the coal tank and kick my water over. And of course the lid just pops off, goes everywhere. So now I'm standing in a cold puddle. Didi says, I'm still working on it too. I hate it when I have to move them, but sometimes you just have to. I'm always worried as to whether or not I'm making a mistake. I'm with you. I tend to second guess everything I do, and then that can lead to more mistakes. So it's always good to do less. Less is more with shrimp. You don't want to do anything unless you have to. When I had the deaths in the orange eye blue tiger tank yesterday, my first thought is like, oh, I got to do a water change, got to do this. And well, what if the issue is I did a water change? What if the problem was because the water wasn't right? And if I do another water change, that's only going to add to the problem. So, when you see stuff like that, you kind of just want to watch it and see what happens. And after 24 hours, with them just dropping, losing the 5 or 6 in that 24 hours, and then having deaths in other tanks, it made me think that, okay, maybe there was a contaminant somewhere in my, my RO water in the containers I use. Maybe something got into the tanks that's causing problems. So I ended up just adding activated carbon to the tank in the hopes that if there is something in there, it can pull it out. So I'm gonna not feed that tank for a few days and let it kind of balance out. Like first instinct is, oh, maybe it's the cycle's crashing because there's not a lot of shrimp in there. So maybe I should add some bacteria. Well, what if it's a bacterial bloom and that's causing a oxygen issue? You don't want to add more bacteria. So it's whatever you think it is could be the problem itself, and the solution could be make it worse. So you almost want to just write it out like, hey, I know there's something going on with this tank. I know I don't know what it is, unless 100%, like, oh yeah, I did this and this and now they're dying, that was my fault, let's fix it this way. So unless 100%, like, hey, this is what's happening, then don't do anything. And if you haven't done a water change in a while and you start seeing something happen like that, then you could kind of deduce a little bit better as to what may be happening with that tank. But if you're not sure, you could be doing more harm than good. And as somebody who is very proactive with things, it's hard for me to just sit and wait. I'm not somebody to sit there and watch as things cascade. I'd rather jump on it. And I've lost buried females in a tank, and 3 a.m, have to work at like 7 and like super tired, and like see a dead buried female and be like, okay, can't go to bed yet, I've got to save those eggs. So where somebody else might just flush the shrimp or pull it out and be like, oh, that's what happens, I'm more proactive as far as things go. So when you have an issue you're not aware of and you have to just sit and wait, that doesn't work for me. I can't just sit there and do nothing. Jamie says, I say the chinchillas are to blame. Let them free out back door. They would not last. It is way too hot out there. So no more cichlid. Kind of miss the boys. I'll have to send you some footage of the Oscars. And they're not boys. So when we moved into the house a couple months ago, one of them laid eggs. I don't know who it was, if it was Rip or Indy, but there was eggs scattered all along the tank. So one of them's a girl. Couldn't tell you who. Dee Dee says, is that a Skittles tank, or is that those that don't crossbreed? So this is my Caridina coal tank. So all of these shrimp will actually interbreed and create some random shrimp. So we have a few different lines in here. So these are crystal reds and crystal blacks and fancy black tigers and blue bolts and shadow Misuras and tangerine tigers and Thai bees and dragon bloods and black calcios and red calcios, orange eye blue tigers. Basically, if I have it, it's in this tank. So this is kind of my, like, I'm going to throw every single type of shrimp I have in one tank and see what happens kind of tank. So I've already got some interesting Thai bee crosses in there. So we'll see how the future holds for this tank. Because I've had this tank running for a while, and a lot of times what'll happen, or what I've had happen in the past, is, they'll start to interbreed, they'll start doing their thing, and then all of a sudden the tank just declines and the babies start to die off. And so this tank has always been a struggle for me, but knock on wood, it's doing good right now. It's going really well. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I cut down on my water changes. I was doing 20% every week, and I knocked that down to 10% about every 2 days or 10 days. And I'm actually going to change that to 10% every 2 weeks. I'm having issues after water changes. My shrimp are doing great, and then I do a water change and they just start to just not do well. So I'm just going to stop. Barely says, ask Grant at Garden of Eater about that char product he loves. Yeah, Aquachar. We were actually talking about it at Aquashella, and the way it's made, the way it's processed, it's a lot better than activated carbon. And I know he can go into more detail about the science behind it than I can, but that stuff sounds absolutely amazing. If you have issues with contaminants, or if you start seeing deaths and you don't know why, you can just pop some of that in the tank, and that's going to suck anything in the tank right up. And he's actually sending me some, so thanks, Grant. Jamie says, get some Aquachar and drop it in the tank. Dee Dee says, I ordered some of that Aquachar. Yeah, it's good stuff. Jamie says, Grant sent me some Aquachar and I dropped some in every tank. Tater says, make him do an update or I'll unsubscribe. You don't want to see that tank. I need to rescape it. I need to move it to the other side of the dining room. I need to actually put some sand and stuff in there. Have a good day at work, Jamie. Amber says, yeah, whoever laid the eggs is kind of dumb. They didn't lay them in a clutch and just kind of scattered them about the tank. We have a hunch it may be Indy, but we don't know for sure. So if you don't know my Oscars, I have two Oscars. I have Indy, which I've had for a long time now, and I have Rip, who is a new addition. They're both full-grown adults, and Indy is kind of dumb. He probably should have been cold when they were breeding, because he's a short-bodied Oscar, so I think he's got a lot of deformities. His eyes are like super bug-eyed. His eyes are like 5 times the size of Rip's, and he's like shaped like a dinner plate. He's circle instead of like long like an Oscar's supposed to be. So he's got a lot of genetic issues. So if he is in fact a she and doesn't know how to lay eggs, that wouldn't surprise me, of course. I wouldn't put it past him. But with Rip being as young as she is, as they are, it could have been the first clutch of eggs that they ever had and didn't know how to lay eggs properly. So instead of, putting them in one spot, they just kind of scattered them around the tank. So who's to know? Who knows? Who's to say which fish it was? But they're both kind of dumb. I'm looking at this tank here and just seeing how many buried females are in there. There's so many buried females in this tank. No, he's kind of calmed down a little bit. They have their little squabbles, but they don't fight like they used to. They'll still like run into the tank and splash water everywhere and do dumb things, but a 2019 reference. My jerk fish. Yeah, they're both special. As far as Oscars go, I got the special ones, which I still love them. They're still good. They're still good fish. Someday they'll be eaten size. So everybody always asks if my shrimp are for eating. Whenever I tell people I keep shrimp, they're like, "Oh, do you eat them?" Like, no, I don't eat them. You know how many shrimp I would have to breed to make a snack? So many. Well, I've got about 20 people in here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Definitely helps YouTube out. And if this is your first time to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you would like to become a member, feel free to do so. Definitely any proceeds help me and my channel, as well as all of my shrimp. Plus, if you become a member, you get shrimp emojis. So, shrimp emoji bomb for all of our members out there. It's always fun. And the more members I have, the more shrimp emojis I can create. Amber asked, could you eat them if you wanted? Probably. I'm sure if you like air fried them up. I don't think they would taste very good. It's probably like those dried prawns you get. Well, next time one of them dies, I'll give you the opportunity. Look at that mama. That's my favorite shrimp right now. I'm gonna be sad when she goes. I'm curious if those are still Calcio eggs or if they're a crossbreed. Pretty sure she was buried when I put her in the tank, which normally you're not supposed to move buried females, but the Calcio tank, I don't know what was happening to it. They were just dropping like crazy. So went ahead and moved all the Calcios to the coal tank just to make sure. And if these orange eyes keep doing the same thing, I'm just gonna break that tank down. I don't know what else to do. 100% water change on it and then put them back. But like I said, less is more. Don't overreact. We'll see how the carbon filter works and if they're doing okay after that. A daisy snack. I'm sure the dogs have eaten shrimp off the ground because I've pulled them out of the tanks to toss into the shrimp graveyard and go to put it in the graveyard, and there's nothing on the tweezers. So I'm sure there's shrimp on the ground here the dogs have come in and snacked on. Thanks, Nightbot. Yeah, pretty soon my tanks will be popping and producing babies like crazy, so that way we can look at some of the other tanks besides just the coal tank. I need to figure out the lighting in here as well, because the tanks behind me on this rack have massive glare. So like if you look, you can see the glare in the tank behind me, and it makes it very hard to record anything in those tanks. So as far as like moving the camera and putting other shrimp into view, it makes it hard to see those shrimp. So once I figure out the lighting and how to best photograph those shrimp, I'll be able to show off some of my other tanks. Amber says, what are your go-to foods for shrimp at the moment? So Shrimp King Complete is my go-to, and that's just because I've never had any issues with it. The shrimp absolutely love it. They swarm to it, as well as the algae pops, which is kind of like a snowflake food. And those are the two that I feed the most. And then I'm really liking Rob's food from Shrimp Envy. I don't have as much experience with it because I just started using it, but it's good. I really like it. The only thing that I've noticed with any homemade foods is that they're just so dense, so jam-packed full of stuff that you have to really make sure that you feed only a little bit, because if you're feeding a good chunk every day, then you can overfeed. Hey, there's Cherie right there. That's too funny. I was just talking about your food. Yeah, so the Shrimp King Complete, that's what has been my go-to for a long time, but definitely excited to see how the Shrimp Envy does and how it competes with it. Because as of right now, the shrimp love it. they, like most homemade foods, the shrimp absolutely attack it, and that's got to do with the amount of ingredients that are in there. All those organic, natural ingredients, the shrimp just go to town for it. Whenever I was making my own homemade food, they just loved it. They would go to town. Uh, but like I was saying, was with those homemade foods, with how dense those pellets are, you just got to be careful. You want to make sure that you're only feeding enough that your shrimp can eat in an hour, because you can overfeed very easily. And it's a good thing and a bad thing, because your food's going to last a lot longer, but you have a higher chance of, polluting your tank if you only have a few shrimp. So definitely keep an eye on it and only feed as much as they can eat within an hour. Hey, Sherry, welcome to the stream. So as you can see, we're feeding the Shrimp Envy mini lollies, and the shrimp go to town on these. I've only fed them in my cold tank just because of the large number of shrimp I have in this tank, but it's been 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and they've got it completely stripped, swarming all over it. They're a hit. They definitely like the shrimp lollies. Sherry says, you make a very good point on the overfeeding. Thank you for making folks aware of that. Yes, absolutely. So I know it's easy to think that, some people out there will try different foods and they'll be like, oh, this food's garbage, that it's the food. It was probably the amount of food that you fed, because I feel that some of the commercial pellets, you can feed a larger pellet of the commercial stuff because it's not as dense. It doesn't have as much good stuff in it, so it's going to go a long way, to where you get some of these homemade foods like you guys are making over at Shrimp Envy, and they're just jam packed full of stuff. And if you were to feed like one of the pellets that come in that bag, it depending on the amount of shrimp you have in your tank. If you have hundreds of shrimp, it should be fine, but you definitely want to make sure that you're only feeding as much as your shrimp can eat, pulling out any excess food after an hour or two. That way you're not contaminating the water quality. The nice thing with Caridina shrimp is, with the low pH, you can have a higher tolerance of ammonia in your tank. So it gives you the ability to overfeed a little bit more, as long as your filtration is good. So it's a nice thing about the Caridina. Ermagerd, Kyle, howdy ho, buddy. How are you, John? Long time no see, man. Hope you're well. Hope everything's doing good over there across the pond. I know I haven't been really watching YouTube. I haven't been jumping into streams. I jump into Grant's stream every now and then. Just it's always busy doing stuff. I got too many shrimp tanks to mess with now. Definitely too many. But I hope everybody is enjoying this Shrimp Wednesday and having a good time. Does anybody have a question for me? Anything I can answer? But if you would like to get some of the Shrimp Envy Complete or Complete Envy from Shrimp Envy, feel free to check out their online store. They've got all kinds of stuff. They've got mineral foods, protein foods. And this shrimp lolly is about done. Oh, Tater. Tater. Tater says, this may sound a little weird, but I remember you as a noob a couple of years ago. I've been keeping shrimp way longer than you, but these days I look to you for advice and new ideas. Love you, bud. Yeah, I love you too, man. It's been a fun journey definitely have grown a lot and have come a long way. I don't do anything, half-assed. I usually go full bore. That's it. So, and it's a blessing and a curse, because once I get obsessed with something, I got to know everything I can. And with these shrimp, they've been around for so long, but I feel that it's almost like the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant. There's these breeders out there who don't want to share that info, and they don't want to share the genetics and the information. And so trying to find any amount of information on these shrimp is kind of hard. I feel like I could grow a lot faster if the information was more publicized and wasn't kept as such a secret. So that's my goal. As I learn things, I'm going to break those secrets. We'll be like the Snowden of shrimp. So when I learn things that nobody else wants to talk about, I'll feel free to share it. And if somebody wants to take me out over some shrimp, then at least I made the world a better shrimpy place. Cherie says, and you also made a point in the other video to say the lollies had a ton of food, and that is fats. Most do not realize just how much is on those sticks. Absolutely. And I love that you guys have the mini sticks, because it leaves less room for air for the folks that don't know this. Because if you look at a pellet, how much food's in a pellet, and if you look at that stick, like, yeah, it's a thin coating of food on the stick, but it's as soon as you add that to the water, it starts to dissolve. The shrimp will disperse it throughout the tank, which is good for babies. But if you have a small tank with a small colony, you're just going to pollute the water. So I've always snapped my shrimp lollies in half just because of that reason. I've never wanted to feed a whole lolly, and if I do, I usually pull it out within a half hour or so, just because I don't want to sit there and, ruin the tank. But there's definitely a lot of food on those sticks, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Just got to be careful. Less is more with everything. Didi says, I hear that. Now that I have all these shrimp tanks, I definitely need to spend more time working in the fin den. Absolutely. But it's nice to be able to have that sanctuary. It's nice to be able to have that place to go that you can, spend time with your tanks. Hey, Robert Summers, welcome to the stream. How are you? So Robert says, have you ever had rogue snails? How did you get rid of them and keep shrimp safe? Depends on what kind of snails you have. So I'm a big fan of snails. I don't feel like they hurt your tanks at all. They actually help to clean things up. So if you have a snail explosion, usually it means you're overfeeding. And there's different contraptions out there that you can get to catch the snails. You could even throw a piece of zucchini in the tank, and that will help to attract the snails. So once they all conglomerate on that zucchini, just pull the zucchini out, shake the snails off into a container, throw them into another tank, whatever you want to do with them. No judgments. I usually put them in another tank or something, and then just plop the zucchini back in there. And that's how you can slowly keep your population down. But if you're just seeing a snail explosion, you're feeding too much and you want to cut back on the food. Sharpie says, been carrying on with my usual stuff, new job, doing it all wrong with my scrims. Hey, if it works for you, it's not wrong. Absolutely. If you haven't already, go hit the like button. Hey, Rob's in here now. Welcome, Rob. Rob says, another shrimp lolly tip. Turn down your water flow to make it last longer. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, if you have a strong flow in the tank, that's definitely going to eat away at that lolly, which I'm okay with. If it's, dispersed throughout the tank, then the babies can get to it. Absolutely, man. So Tater says, if I ever visit US, I will spend a day or two on your couch. or a hotel. I don't know if you hear my dogs barking. Nobody wants to stay here. Robert says, thank you. I'm a noob to the hobby. Just found your videos. Well, welcome, man. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. The community is very caring. The community wants everybody to succeed and grow. So there are no dumb questions. Feel free to reach out for anything. Amber says, we will set up an air mattress in the shrimp room so you will feel at home. Absolutely. You know, the bubbles will soothe you right to sleep. That's not a bad idea, actually. There's enough space in here. Just know that when I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I do is come in here and check for deaths. Make sure all the bubbles are going still. Hey, Killer Kitty, welcome to the stream. How are you? Killer Kitty is a new member. Let's go ahead and do a shrimp emoji for her. Shrimp emoji bomb. Them, I should say. Sorry. Sorry for assuming your gender. You don't know me. You don't know the struggles I've been through. Killer Kitty asks, what color substrate shows off green jades the best? So green jades are a darker shrimp, kind of like blue dreams. I am no expert when it comes to green jades, but I would, if it was me, I would want a light colored substrate. The only thing with that is sometimes with shrimp, if you put them on a lighter substrate, they lighten up. So the lighter substrate, I feel, would be better for creating a deeper, darker green naturally, because if you put them on a dark substrate, they're going to darken up, they're going to get darker. So you'll have these really beautiful, really nice dark green shrimp, but then you sell them to somebody who has a lighter substrate and they all fade and they become like a lighter green. And then, you know, it's just not good for the consumer or whoever you're sharing your shrimp with. If you're just breeding your shrimp for yourself and you're not trying to create the perfect green jades that are the darkest out there, you know, nobody else can beat your green jades, then I'd say put them on a dark substrate, because then that way they darken up a little bit and you can see those greens better. For your green jade connoisseurs out there, if I am completely wrong, feel free to tell me so in the comments. But if I remember from when I kept Blue Dreams, I know that the darker substrate definitely made them pop more, to where a lighter substrate kept them lighter. So for culling and creating the darkest shrimp I could, I wanted that lighter substrate. So that way, if you had a dark substrate at your house, they got super dark. So if I was creating these dark shrimp on a light substrate, I knew that no matter what you put them on, they were going to be awesome looking. Killer Kitty says, you know me, I'm a lady. It's 2022. We gotta be respectful for everyone. I don't know why that made me laugh. Tater says, I keep my green jades on a brown substrate, kind of middle. I was thinking dirt. Like, it's not sand, it's not black plastic sand, it's just dirt. Like, I just got them on dirt. Robert says, why are darker shrimp better? I love the Riley types, but told they were not a good type line. It's all preference. So as a shrimp keeper, you do you, man. As a shrimp breeder, you want to focus on what's popular. So if you're breeding for, you know, money to sell these shrimp, then you want to focus on what other people like. But as a shrimp keeper, you do what you like, man. If you like the Rillies, if you like that, you know, clear body with the colored head and tail, then get those. There's no wrong answer with shrimp keeping. Like me, I've got some expensive shrimp in this coal tank. I've got black fancy tigers. I got calcio shrimp. I got a dragon blood. Like some of those shrimp are $35 to $50 a piece, and they're in my coal tank. And some people would say like, oh, you got to separate those out. Why are you mixing the genes? And it's like, I don't care. It's an experiment. I want to see what happens. I've got my tanks with their unique lines and genes, and I will say the dragon bloods and the calcios would have their own tank if the tank didn't collapse on me, but that's a different story altogether. Right now they're happy in the coal tank. They're going to produce some cool offspring, and then maybe someday I'll move them back. Maybe they'll live there forever. Who knows? I could always buy more. There's never a shortage of shrimp. I didn't create these shrimp myself. There's going to be more out there. It is already 5:00. Time went by fast. Rob says, "Wow, that calcio on the stick has so many eggs." So that's a big mama calcio. She is my favorite shrimp in the shrimp room. You missed it earlier, but I was talking about her when we first started. She is a trooper. She has been one of the first calcios that I had. She survived the move. She survived the tank collapse. She's living her life out in the calcio tank. She disappeared on me for 3 days. So there was 3 days where I thought she was done for. I tore the tank apart, was looking everywhere, couldn't find her. And I just accepted the fact that she succumbed to old age and was no longer with us. And yesterday I popped into the shrimp room and she's just trotting along on top of the sponge filter like nothing's wrong, like she hadn't been hiding from me in 3 days and didn't have me all stressed out. But she is if there was one shrimp that somebody would, well, I can't say that. If somebody offered me a bunch of money for her, I would sell her. But she is see how quick I changed. Hey, I work hard. I work hard for everything that I do. But she's the one shrimp that, I absolutely love. And she's doing great. She's just kicking in there. She's going to continue to do great. Well, let's not jinx her. She's rock solid. Tater says, preference. Yes. So, well, whatever you want to do. It's your shrimp room. It's your tanks, man. You do you. If you look at the top of the lolly, we've got a Thai bee in there. So tangerine tiger mixed with a Taiwan bee. And I'm loving these guys. They kind of look like a what would you say, like a yellow fishbone almost like a yellow pinto. They're really cool looking. I'd love to set up a tank of those guys. John says, I like all the weird and funky patterns I get from my shrimp. My local fish store pays the same, whatever flavor they are. That's good. Hey, Ryan, how are you? Yes, hit the like button. Definitely helps me out. Jamie says, your coal tank is more expensive shrimp than my best tank. Yeah, but you sell more shrimp than I do, and you sell Neos. I get too attached to my colonies to sell them. I'm a terrible, terrible shrimp breeder. I'd be like, no, I can't sell any out of that colony yet. They're not where I want them to be, which I need to start letting go of some of my shrimp. Like my green auras, I've got hundreds of shrimp in that tank. I can get rid of them at any point. So if anybody would like some Aura Blue Tangerine Tiger crosses, they're probably on their 3rd generation now. We've got some really cool green patterns on there. So green aura shrimp. If you're in the US, shoot me a message on Facebook. Shrimp Mania, how are you, man? Good to see you in the stream. Definitely good to be streaming again. I'm glad to be back here. I love talking with you guys and hanging out. Killer Kitty says, what's the best way to know when you are ready for a shrimp show? So you can enter a shrimp contest with 1st generation offspring as long as they are over 1.5 inches, 1.5 centimeters. So you can look at the contest rules and just as long as they're big enough to enter into the contest, you can enter. You know, a lot of breeders don't want to enter their F1 generations because they didn't work on those lines long enough, but it definitely helps the contest to enter any shrimp you have, and who knows, you may win. I entered some of my culls and I got third place. Yes, if you would like to become friends with me on Facebook, I am always open to questions. Feel free to shoot me a message on there. I'm always on my phone with YouTube and other stuff, so I can be a textaholic. So if you want to sit there and text me about shrimp for most of the day, I'll probably keep that conversation going, and most likely will be the last person to say something. If you're any of the people out there who text me on a regular basis, you know that I can always talk about shrimp. It's always something to say. More than likely, I'm going to tell you about my shrimp that are dying. So like I said, that's usually what I focus on. There are so many buried females in this tank. If we don't have a baby explosion in this tank, I'm going to lose it. For the longest time, I've had buried females in this tank, but no babies. And right now, there's quite a few babies in there, but it's frustrating. See you later, tater salad. Sleep tight. Yes, and get yelled at by his wife because he is on his phone all day. I got to talk to the shrimp nerds. They need to hear my voice. All right. Well, I don't want to run the stream too far into Papa Shrimp, so we are going to go ahead and call it. If anybody has one last question, feel free to shoot it out real quick. We'll go on a quick 5-minute tangent and then call it good, because I don't want to take too much time away from his stream. Ryan says, I'd be lost without Kyle. It's like TV shows, you know, when football goes into overtime and you miss half of your show. You don't want that. All right. So yeah, if we have no more questions, we will go ahead and end it. And feel free to go ahead and pop over to Papa Shrimp's channel. More than likely, he is streaming right now, which I am going to throw the link up for you guys, so that way you can go over there and show him some love. Let him know that I sent you all his way. Got to keep the family going, you know. Killer Kitty with the super chat. You're amazing. Thank you so much for the sticker. But yeah, if you want to continue to do shrimpy things, go ahead and check out Papa Shrimp's channel. Like I said, he's over there live right now streaming. So let him know that I sent you guys all over there. We'll go bomb his stream real quick. So feel free to join me. I'm going to pop over there, say hi, see how he's doing. But thank you guys so much for jumping in here. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me, for all your support, all the members, all the super chats, everything. You guys are awesome. Keeps me doing what I'm doing and able to continue to buy shrimp food and more expensive shrimp to show on the channel. All of my proceeds go back into the tanks. I don't use any of the money to pay bills or anything like that. It all goes right back into the channel. So anything you guys donate, anything you guys subscribe to, it all goes back to you. So thank you guys so much. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, 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 bye.